Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast. Your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
We got a soup terrorist. Rainer's blowing a canister. And we're the most wanted in the country. But don't you worry. Daddy's home.
Hello everybody, that intro can mean only one thing. It's the Stuff and Things podcast and we're talking about The Boys, Season 4, Episode 5. I am Sam. Joining me to break down the events of, in my opinion, one of the greatest episodes of television ever, it's Stefan.
Hey buddy, how you doing?
Yeah, good man. I gave it the big intro because I walked away from this episode with a real kind of, I really think that's up there. That episode of TV hit every mark, from hilarity to deep, dark emotion to storyline being told and moved forward. Yeah, for me, that was near perfect. It was brilliant.
I would say this episode literally had everything we needed.
Yeah.
You've got 5 or 6 different characters, their story arc moving massively forward.
Yeah.
You've got, there's dust in the air moments. You have I'm crying with laughter moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I think pretty much ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, no,
what an episode.
Yeah, a tradition on this show, we're just going to do this first. The Boys Season 4, Episode 5. The title of the episode was...
Beware the Jabberwock, my son.
Any idea what that was about?
Not a fucking clue. Nope.
No, loved it.
So we do a lot of podcasts, and we do the title of the episode is, and then we geek out if something in the episode kind of says it. Or we've been doing the Star Wars show, episode called Day, set in the daytime. Episode called Night, set in the nighttime. Yeah. I'm like, it makes sense. Then you read these ones, and it's Beware of the Jabberwock. I'm like, nope, I'm confused by that one.
No, I'm fairly confident there are meanings and references and amongst all of this that is going over my head and clearly launching over yours as well. So for listeners,
I'm sure Huey's dad said something about the Jabberwock.
Probably. Now I can look all this up, but anyone out there, get in touch. Let's get a bit of audience participation on this one. Get in touch. Let us know what's going on with the episode titles. Try not to roll your eyes really heavy if it's obvious to you, because remember, it's only obvious when you know. So don't be mean. And on that note, look, I just tried to tell the internet not to be mean. That's like, telling night not to be dark, really, but never mind.
Yeah, rain, don't be wet.
Yeah. I'm trying. So, like I said, I finished the episode. Now, I learnt my lesson from last week, so my work day is kind of crazy at the moment, and so I'm trying to fit in. We're watching 3 shows, recording 3 shows a week, so I'm trying to time things. And last week I made the mistake of trying to watch The Boys during my lunch, and then didn't really eat a lot because I forgot just how gross this show can be, and it's like, oh no, don't want that now.
Yep.
So this week I was like, right, I'm definitely not doing that. So I've got this sort of window where I can literally watch the episode. I'm not going to be able to write my notes or anything like that. I'm just going to be able to watch it, and then that'll sit with me until the evening, and then I'll write my notes up afterwards. And seriously, man, I just watched it, and I was just sat there for a little while afterwards, like, oh wow, that hit. That hit on a few levels. From, I think I messaged you during it, like, there's literally a scene in it where I was crying laughing. Like, I had to pause it. I was gone. I was helpless. I was no good to anyone. And then...
That's always a good start. When you get an episode of television that has a scene that you have to pause the telly, because otherwise you're going to miss the next couple of minutes of whatever happens.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, unless you're watching a 9 o'clock Channel 5 movie back in the 90s and there's pausing it for a whole different reason. So... Moving on into this,
wow.
I don't know where to start. So typically what I do is I watch the show and I'll write little prompts to myself to then expand upon to create the notes, which I then use to walk us through the show when we do the podcast. So with this, I just sat there as I watched it from start to finish, and I didn't write anything down, and I just like, oh wow, okay. So then later on, I was like, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some prompts out from the stuff I thought about. So that's what I've done, and so yeah, I just want to kind of walk through certain things. I want to pick a couple of things out initially, if that's okay, just because I think we can deal with them sort of in isolation before diving into the sort of bigger things. So the first thing I want to talk about in isolation from this episode is Homelander and Ryan.
Okay, yep.
Now, I know, I'm pretty sure you messaged me when you were watching it, like, oh no, Ryan, sort of face palm.
Yeah.
An ironic thing. Now, see, there's this thing in this where Ryan, he got this guy who's, I'll tell you what, actually, let's do this first. Me and you have talked about, for 3 seasons of this show, they have taken thinly veiled digs at the real world. They've held a dark mirror up, and they've sort of gone, look, you know, you worship these actors and these people. This is what, if they were superheroes with superpowers, this is probably what they'd be like, these debauched, crazed kind of people. It's been a lot of it's been kind of like, oh, wow, that's really sending that up. And then this season, they've done stuff which is extreme, but then what makes it worse is like, oh, actually, that's really happening. Like, people actually do believe some of these things that are being said, and so it's sort of really grounded it, which is amusing to me, because all of a sudden, some people who have enjoyed the show for 3 years suddenly feel like, oh no, what's going on? You've gone woke. It's like, you've clearly not been paying attention.
The series hasn't changed. They've just made the dig slightly less subtle.
Oh, yeah, there's no subtlety at all. I mean, we've literally had Disney name dropped previously, and then in this episode, we are having what can only be described as a D23 style event, but for Vault, and I think it's even called like V50 something or another.
V52, instead of D23. I was like, wow.
Yeah, not even subtle, and we basically have the Kevin Feige version for Vault Film and TV announce phases 7 through 13 of the Vault Cinematic Universe.
7 to 19.
Yeah, of the Vault Cinematic Universe. Wow. I was gone. It's not like...
The VCU.
Yeah, they're subtle, and then there's just, we are literally having a pop at you.
Yeah.
Now, me and you, big Marvel MCU fans, of course we are, and we can look at this and we can laugh, definitely, because it is funny. I hope, with everything that I have, that Kevin Feige and people like that would also see this as funny. I think they would. I think you only got to watch She-Hulk and the quite deliberate pop he has it himself in that to know that I think they'd look at this and laugh and go, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I saw some people online, going after Marvel now. I was like, oh, shut up. It's parody, it's funny. Now, the next thing that made me laugh is that they even dropped the term go woke, go broke into it.
Oh, yeah. Go woke, get yoked. Yeah.
Go woke, go yoked, yeah.
I was like, oh, wow.
Now, the fact they're even dropping the term, which in essence was used by people in the USA to bring down companies they felt were pushing an agenda. And Disney had their worst ever year in record. Their worst ever year. And that was largely attributed to this campaign, Go Woke, Go Broke. The fact that they've held this up, parody, taking the piss, and then used that term as well, but then doubled down on their hyper... like white savior movie with A-Train, where he looks like, oh, why am I doing this? The Will Ferrell cameo. I know
Will Ferrell is the hero of their story.
Of the story. Yeah, and I know you don't like him, but it's just such a funny, bizarre cameo. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like I can watch that and laugh, knowing that he's not going to be in anymore, so it's fine. Yeah,
such a bizarre one that you hate him so much. But
It was just such a bizarre cameo, like such a weird kind of.
But
like,
that's what makes it funny. I think it's just this random, the randomness of it makes it funny. Now we also have this. There's this line that Deep says about, we're doing, because we're so inclusive, we're doing product placements. Like, so if a white family's watching it, you'll see this. Yeah. But if it's a black family watching it, you're going to see this. And you see the audience, like, people really looking uneasy. Like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, the people he's targeting do not look like they're impressed with the product they've been given.
No. Some racial stereotyping going on right there. But absolutely hilarious. Just the kind of, I don't know, vault arrogance of everything that they're doing. But you see Sister Stage and like A-Train give each other a look like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
We have 2 people of color in the 7 and 1 undetermined, like Black Noir, basically. Like, hello.
Yeah.
So there was all of that. Now this ties into the Homelander and Ryan thing, because Ryan's being pitched a movie, like a superhero school movie, and Ryan's not interested. Now, what we'd seen up to this point is Homelander kind of pushing him to basically be like mini him. So, you know, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do. Now, in this scene, Homelander takes a completely different approach, which is, what do you want to do? So, initially, what were your thoughts on Homelander in this? Because we've seen him look very distracted. You saw him have these kind of mental flashbacks to him going home last week and ripping all those people apart. And then you see Ryan come into focus in his head. So what was your thinking behind him and in those scenes? Did you think like, oh, hang on, perhaps his experience is now going to be a bit different with Ryan? Or did you think, again, this is just sick Homelander manipulation, but a different type?
I'm actually quite on the fence with this, because at first he's having all those flashbacks and he's probably got a twitch going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, this is new. Normally he just stands there and laughs. This is affecting him.
Yeah.
And then you see the Ryan focus and you're like, he's realised that he was manipulated his whole life and that he can't do that to Ryan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, he's realising the exact same thing's happening. He doesn't want that to happen. This is interesting. Is this like, personal growth? I don't know. What is this?
Yeah.
And then the scene with Ryan happens and you're like, but he's just manipulated Ryan into becoming just like him. But in a more softly kind of gentle way. And I'm like, now I'm confused.
So similar to you, I was wondering what was going on with that, because we discussed this a little bit last week of, are you trying to humanize and trying to give us an element of sympathy towards Homelander, because what they did to him was horrific, and stuff like that. So, and we kind of like I hope they're not going down that line, because I like, this guy's just a total psychopath, and he might be a psychopath who was created, but he is a psychopath, and he straight up murders people all the time and doesn't give a flying fuck, just.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't try, like, I'm like, in my head I'm just like, don't do that. Don't try and go down that line, because it is such a difficult thing. And once you start walking down it, like trying to take the audience with you, you can lose the audience in that. Like, I genuinely, I would not, I can't find myself being sympathetic towards him. So when they're doing,
he's done enough stuff to not be able to have a redemption arc,
Oh, there isn't though.
The stuff he has done, there is no chance.
Like here's the thing that's kind of interesting in this. A lot of these characters in this show are beyond redemption, and we actually get that with Frenchie in this episode. So I'm going to tie these two together because I think it's linked. So my point is, all my thinking on this is, do not do this with Homelander. He's a mass murdering fuck. I don't like him. He's a psychotic, all these things.
Yeah.
And then mirroring it, you have Frenchie, who I do like, I do have sympathy for, but in this episode is struggling terribly because of his past. he wants to do good now, but cannot accept, because he's had this very confronting thing, from his past, that he did all of that bad. He doesn't deserve. He's like, I don't deserve redemption. He's talking about his faith, and he's like, I believe in all of it, but this. I am beyond forgiveness. I shouldn't. If someone forgives me, I judge them. Talks about Kimiko.
Yeah, he says Kimiko. I'm scared that she'll hate me, and I'm more worried that she won't. And it's like, oh yeah,
that is
because
complicated.
Kimiko has done some stuff.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. The whole of the boys, they've all done stuff.
All of them have, and so. But to me, that's an interesting thing, and I wanted to bring it up because for me, it's like, do not try and redeem Homelander for me. That guy's awful. I just want to hate him. French is a murderer. He murdered that guy he then was sleeping with's family. Think how messed up that is. Like, if Homelander did that exact same thing, murdered a family, then started sleeping with the survivor, we'd all be calling that the most psychotic, heinous thing in the history of TV. My God, Homelander is the worst.
Yeah.
Yet French has done it, and because
we're all like, oh, poor Frenchie, he's really conflicted.
A little bit, yeah. But it is messed up, and so I kind of wanted to do that because I kind of feel in this episode they gave Homelander a softer kind of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still a psychopath, but I kind of feel like the Frenchies aren't. There's a little mirror there. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it feels like just for us as the audience to look at that and go, "Oh, hang on a minute," because we like him. We're kind of okay, we're now. Frenchie hands himself into the police. Now I didn't see that coming. But
no, that was a bit of a shocker.
That in itself, like, I don't know where that's going to go now. Like, because Frenchie on the inside, he's going to be tried for murder, or is MM going to pull some strings and drag him out of there and like, what do you think you're doing? So that's kind of there, and that's
like if Frenchie goes in and admits everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'd say they'd throw the book at him, but they'll probably just,
they just strap him in the chair. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that in itself is a very interesting subplot. But just circling back then to, like I said, this mirror feeling of Homelander, he tells Ryan in a really kind of calming way, like, you don't need to do this. Like, I was manipulated my whole life, and so like you, I'm kind of like, oh wow, he's almost kind of gonna allow Ryan to have this freedom. And then it kind of all dawned on me something. And when he sort of gets Ryan to force that girl to keep slapping the guy's face, it dawned on me what he's done. In the last episode, the woman who was ridiculously calm around him said to him, "We brought in the top psychologists and behavioral people in the world to make you dependent on needing love and praise." She basically said to him that, like, we were torturing you, and then we had these other people being nice to you and doing this, so you craved that. And then we're thinking he's looked at that and thought, oh no, I need to be better. He's learnt from it, and he's not telling Ryan what to do now. He's letting Ryan think Ryan's in charge. But think about what he actually does in this episode. Oh, you don't want to do that? Of course you don't have to do that. You're in charge. You run the world. You're my son. I won't pressure you into anything. And then, do you want to save people? Why don't we save her? Do you want to save her? Okay. I think he needs punishing, doesn't he? He literally puppet masters Ryan in that scene. And Ryan comes away from it thinking that was all his decisions.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm right on that, or do you think
I think you're spot on?
Reaching?
No, I think you're spot on.
That's
kind of that's very similar to kind of where I left that scene.
Yeah.
Was kind of like, he's kind of, manipulating Ryan in a different way. He's now become puppet master. Instead of the obvious do this, do that, the way he does it. Do you want to do that? Yeah, okay, well, do you think this should happen? Do you think, the whole leading questions and everything, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah, no, he went on that journey last week, and his takeaway from it was, I need to use emotional manipulation, not direct telling him what to do.
Yeah, because I could be a good father, that was what worked on manipulate him.
Because that was what worked on me. And so when that dawned on me, I was kind of like, oh, you son of a bitch. And what's worrying is it seemed to really work. Ryan's
got a big smile on his face because he thinks he has just saved that woman from the harassment that she's getting. Yeah.
But the other thing that happens in that scene as well is Homelander dehumanizes the people to Ryan. Like, we are above them. They are scum. They are ants.
Yeah.
You can make them dance to your will. Like, hand Ryan your wallet. Hand Ryan the keys to your car. And Ryan's just like, oh, this is how this works. Like, I ask and I get. So Homelander is subtly, throughout all of these scenes, giving Ryan you are superior. There's a moment where Ryan says, oh, slap him in the face. And the guy looks to Homelander, and Homelander looks at him like, if you don't do what you're being told on your knees, I'm going to end you.
Yeah.
So Ryan doesn't see that look. The guy does. So the guy just takes it. But Ryan's now experiencing that power, that authority. Can you imagine being that age and being able to walk around and tell people to do exactly what you want and them doing it?
Oh, God, life would be a nightmare. For everyone else, not for me.
Yeah, terrible.
Not for me. For me, life would be amazing, but my God, I wouldn't want to be the people around me.
No. It's a terrifying prospect because Ryan's been kind of on the fence. Whilst Homelander's been treating him like shit, shouting at him and saying, you have to do this, you have to do that, he's been kind of rebelling a little bit.
And you can kind of almost see, the more that happens, the more you could kind of see him going towards Butcher. And I don't want to live like that. That life's horrible. That's an awful life. All of a sudden now it's like, here's the Jaguar. Here's the American Express card. Here's the whole wallet. Go for it. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you've got a kid who's like, I can have everything I want.
Yeah.
Just by telling these people to do it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This could be fun.
Yeah. No, I know. It's
And he's also added to that, he's now got that whole thing about he thinks he's just saved someone. Now, we've seen a few episodes already how distraught he was that he had hurt someone or killed someone.
You got it, yeah.
And now you flip that, I've just saved that woman.
Yeah.
But by doing that, she has just beaten that guy to a pulp. But I saved her. And now you're like, oh, okay, so are we now going to see him kind of killing more people because he's saving people?
Yeah, it's
like that woman's being attacked. He goes and kills the person doing it, but I saved her. You're like, oh, this is a bad way to teach.
It's potentially turning him into mini Homelander. Now, it was a good episode for so many reasons, and I think a lot of it will be overlooked. This subtle stuff will be overlooked because of the bigger stuff. So I wanted to highlight it in isolation. Now, another thing I wanted to highlight as well in this episode is the situation with A-Train. As we know, A-Train has given information to the boys, and Sister Sage seems to be very much implying she knows. Do you take it that way?
Yeah, his whole demeanour this episode and the looks they give each other, it's like he is acting purely on guilt of like, oh shit, she's worked. Like the paranoia of she knows.
Yeah.
She knows. And I'm wondering now, we are seeing the looks that she is giving him like constantly.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, are we actually seeing her going, I know it was you and I will find the evidence?
Yeah.
Or are we seeing the looks more from like A-Train and that paranoia that's kicking in, so that every time anyone looks at him, he's like, shit, they know. Oh my God, they know.
I think the moment where he became convinced she knew was her terminology. That footage didn't just run itself out of that room.
Yes, that line was great.
Yeah, I mean
just run his way out of that room, walks off, and he stood there like, oh, fuck.
Well, if you think about the actual phrasing to that, like, oh, it didn't just grow legs and walk out. You wouldn't just say, that information didn't just walk out of there. You don't say it ran, but she deliberately said that to him and looked at him, and he was like, okay, well, let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. Now he goes to Ashley for help. Ashley, as we know, has been in a interesting relationship with another Vault employee where she has been dominating him. It's been messed up, but then the show's messed up. And we see her in this episode basically tell him he needs to shove his anal beads back up there because she's got the remote, and he refuses.
They're not working,
because she's not in charge anymore, and he needs a real dom, and basically dumps her, and she's just like, Now, what is interesting to me then is when A-Train goes to her and he's like, I need your help. This is what's going on. We're in this together. She's like, no, I'm going to tell Homelander all I did was take one shit in his... And he's like, you've been doing a lot more than that. And she's like, oh, shit. So they're kind of in it together now. And she... Now, there's a thing about a woman scorn in there.
Oh, God, yeah.
She then sets up her now ex as the leak and feeds them to Homelander and the Supes who murder him.
Yeah,
that was quite dark. Like, I know A-Train wanted to get out of it, and by the way, A-Train's in that room when that guy gets murdered for what he did.
Yeah, and he does not look comfortable.
No, and Sage again is just staring at him like, I know it was you. Like, I know that everyone else is going to move on like they did last time, but I know it was you. So that in itself, again, is messed up. Now, that scene where that guy basically gets fed to the group, Homelander gives a Wrath of the Gods speech. Mate, what do you think's happening there? Because to me, it feels like what he's saying is, we are no longer going to pretend to be the good guys. We are going to be like avenging gods above, sitting above them, raining down our justice. Now, that's terrifying, isn't it?
Oh, mate, like, we already know, obviously, Homelander is just absolutely psychotic. I look at the new ones that he's brought in, and I'm like, okay, so we know Sister Sage is very manipulative, very clever, but we've not really seen her get her hands dirty. She's got other people to do the stuff for her. Firecracker, I reckon Firecracker would happily go and just cause crap. And then I'm looking at the others, and I'm like, I don't see any of them being as psychotic as Homelander.
No.
But they are all scared of him. So if he decides, right, this is how we're running shit now.
Yeah.
No more saving people. We're going for the justice and revenge route. None of them are going to stand up against him.
No, it's worth noting as
and
well.
That's what's the scary part. Like, they all beat that guy to death. Yeah. And it's like, if Homelander hadn't have been in the room, none of that would have happened. That was purely they do as they're told.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's what makes it even scarier. Because if he decides on his own, like you say, the wrath of the gods, we are above them. We are not human. We are above human.
Yeah.
We need to go do this, and this. The rest of them are all going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, boss. Okay.
No, and that's exactly that. This is like the first step of him, and also basically declaring war. Like, we need to save America from itself. I mean, it's a terrifying statement to make. It's also one that happens quite a lot, but it's a terrifying statement to make from that person in that kind of position. And in amongst those Supes beating that guy to death, of course, we see the Guardians of Godolkin.
Yeah.
Now, for all those people who watch Gen V, this was a perfect tie-in. There have been mentions and references. I really
enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the way they did the tie-in.
Yep. We saw them announcing a film at the V event.
Yes.
And we saw them then beat this guy to death. And also, we'll do whatever you tell us to do, Homelander. And those two are powerful Supes. Those two.
Yes. The fact that Butcher mentions as well that he went to Godolkin as well.
Yeah,
just tying it in with this. I love that. Like, it was one of those ones that when we watched Gen V, I really enjoyed Gen V.
Yep.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like, Ashley's in it, so you kind of get that bit of a link tie-in, but not too heavy.
Yeah.
And then obviously the end credit scene of Butcher, and you're like, oh wow, okay. So I've been watching this series so far, going, when did that happen? When was Butcher there? Was he there before this season starts? Is he there during it? Is it all happening alongside? Like, when does it happen? So to not get a reference of it properly like that until this episode, I'm still a bit like, when did he go there?
Okay.
When was it? But I love how they've tried, because they've made it feel like it's pretty much running alongside. Like, Butcher could have gone out at any point during this season where he's disappeared for a bit and gone there, and it would work perfectly. Yeah. If he had gone there beforehand, it works. So that for me is really good, like storytelling tying in, because there's no point where he'd go, oh, I went there then, and you'd go, what? How did you have time to do that? Like, where Butcher is so kind of in and out. Yeah. He could have gone at any point. Like, it works perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that it happened in between, the end of Gen V and the start of this, because they were referencing what happened at the Godolkin in episode 1. So I kind of felt that it was literally like one running into the other. Now, for anyone listening and watching The Boys who perhaps didn't watch the spin-off, and there's a lot to unpack there, but basically, in a very, very brief nutshell, you have a university for soups. It's a vault run, and at that university, the dean hates soups. Won't let on, but is creating in a lab a virus to kill soups. It attaches the compound V and murders them. A scientist works it, kills a soup, and then Victoria Newman meets the scientist, says, oh, is this everything? Is this all of it? And the guy says, yeah. And you're the only one who can make it? Yeah. And she kills him.
Yeah, and it's all because the dean of the school's husband and child was on the aeroplane that Homelander and Queen Maeve didn't save. Yeah. So everything linked together beautifully.
It really does. Now, in this episode, Butcher goes to the group and says about the virus. He knows about it. After the initial, why the fuck haven't you said anything about this before, and all that kind of thing, they do. By the way, as well, Starlight and Kimiko shooting each other looks whilst Butcher's talking about this. He even says quite bluntly that he'd let them die.
Yeah.
He's such a difficult character, because do you really believe that? Because I don't. Maybe I'm painfully naive, but I don't think he would. Not those two.
That's the problem with Butcher. You really don't know. Like, if Butcher got a chance to press a button and that would kill all soups, I think he presses the button without hesitation, without really actually going, oh no, what about Starlight? Oh no, what about Kimiko? He would just press the button and be like, yeah, bye, bitch.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm painfully naive then.
I don't know. I like to hope that you're right.
Says you're a motherfucker, but you're a motherfucker with a heart.
Yes.
And that's kind of like, again, in this episode, we see Butcher look at a rabbit in a lab that's got Temp V hooked up to it. He knows that Temp V has messed him up and killed him. So his instinct is to remove that and let the rabbit go. And Kimiko sees and is like, oh, hello. And he kind of like, sort of, you can see he's kind
Get my gun.
Like, oh, I'm going to stamp on it now, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, that was an interesting scene, because that, I think, showed what MM meant. Yeah, he's an absolute son of a bitch, but he saw that and was like, no, that's cruel. I don't like that. And reacted with compassion, and then afterwards was like, oh shit, someone saw.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't see that. Oh, yeah.
Now, to finish that arc, interestingly, he later sees that same rabbit dying and something bursts out of it. Like a kind of symbiont.
The weird
almost.
tentacle-y sort of thing out of its stomach, yeah.
Right, now, what I want you to do is, for me, picture that thing bursting out of it as kind of like black goo. And what does that remind you of?
Oh, it'd be very similar to a certain web crawler's symbiote, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, think about that particular character, Venom, and how Venom has conversations with Brock.
Yeah.
Now, Butcher currently has got something inside him which people think is a tumor on his brain and stuff like that. What if it's a symbiont? And what if these conversations with Becca, and I personally am still on the fence with Kessler.
I am now fully, that's a hallucination. After this episode, I am 100% on the that's an hallucination.
Okay, so we know Becca is, because Becca's dead, so we know that 100%. Yep. I'm Kessler, aka Negan. I'm still not 100%, and the reason why I'm not 100% is because I genuinely thought Huey's mum was, and I think in this episode again we're kind of 100% no, she wasn't.
Yeah, no, she's definitely there. Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to this, so that's the only reason I'm like 99.99, you know.
But there's still that slimmer of
there is that, just perhaps I'm overreaching.
In the next episode, Huey walks in and goes, "Who's the fuck's your friend?" And we all go, "Oh,
yeah,
he can see him too."
Yeah.
Wait, are they both hallucinating now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we know that Butcher shot up Temp V a lot more than Huey did, so it would stand to reason that Butcher's fucked himself up. But I actually think this has been caused by V. Because he says, "Oh, I stole some, I thought it might fix me, and it's actually made it worse." Yeah. I think his superpower that V has given him is basically like a symbiote. It's basically this, like, it's like Venom sort of power. Because you think about when he blacked out and then ripped that suit apart in the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit like Venom. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, my only thing with that was we see it kind of burst out the side of the rabbit.
Yeah.
We've not seen any marks or scars on Butcher or any reference yet.
No, but then at the same time, Butcher's a lot bigger than a rabbit. And
this is true.
Butcher also is a sentient being that can be manipulated, and perhaps the thing didn't rate the rabbit. Like, it's bursting out to go and infect something else.
Yeah, it's possible.
Now, Butcher stamps on it, murders it, and that was but I think in his mind, he's thinking, shit, that's what's in me.
Yeah, that's what my thought was, because we've seen a few times already this season.
Yeah. Like,
Butcher close-up of, like, his skin or the side of his head or whatever.
Yeah.
And there is definitely something in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm now like, oh, is it that? Is that what it is?
Right before he ripped that guy apart, we saw him blacking out and all these things looked like it was going to his brain.
Yeah.
Just one other thing in isolation before I sort of dive into one of the main parts, and that is Sister Sage and Firecracker. Firecracker, you set me up. Sage, like, yeah, I fucking did. Those two hate each other.
You think I'm a stupid, poor white trash? I don't think you're poor.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good, man. That was
just so cold, so cold. Like, it was one of those lines that I missed at first and was like, did she just rewind? Oh, that's a dig.
That was a backhand with the ring turned. That was special.
Yeah. Now, I don't think you're poor.
No, that's interesting though, isn't it? Sage and Firecracker really hate each other. In this episode, Sage is trying to communicate with Homelander and he's not interested. Like, if she's the smartest person on the planet, she should surely be starting to worry about this.
Yeah, things aren't working her way now. They've gone from being very much on her kind of in charge and manipulating everything to now that's one against her, definitely, and the most powerful guy kind of being like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm like, at what point does she go, yeah, I'm out? I'm out whilst I can still walk out. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's worth keeping an eye on because I think she could be wrong. Now, we got two main storylines to cover with this. One is kind of heartbreaking, and the other one left me dying laughing so hard I literally had to pause. So I'm going to let you choose heartbreak or laughter. Which order do you want to go in?
I feel like we need to start with the heartbreak so that we can end with the laughter. Otherwise,
I'm up for
it's going to be
that.
a tough day of work otherwise.
Yeah, I'm up for that. So, Huey, we know his dad was dying in hospital. He got A-Train to get him some Compound V. He didn't do it, but it fell from his pocket, and his mum was like, "Oh, well, clearly that was what you wanted, so I did it." It wakes the dad up. He seems okay, but then straight away he has a memory lapse very, very quickly, and I'm kind of like, "Oh, okay, that's not good." Like, everything seemed fine, and then that. Then he starts to kind of really struggle with a few things. And then he starts to exhibit power. And then he goes off. And then you literally find him in a room where he's punched someone's chest and taken their heart out. At least that's how it looks, like he's punched and grabbed their heart.
Yeah.
What we then learn is actually, no, he's phasing. He's phasing in and out. And there's a scene where a guy's flirting with a nurse. And he runs through the wall and just rephases in the middle of him and is then turning around with blood and guts dropping on the floor. Just like...
It's so gross. Gross.
Now, all of this is gross, very much in the boys' wheelhouse and all of this stuff. So why is this the heartbreaking aspect of everything? The heartbreaking aspect of this, there's 2 points to this. One is Huey has to deal with this. Huey, for 3 and a bit years or whatever, has been fighting Soups. He has been dealing with these situations. He tells his mother when he's sorting out things at the end, like, "Oh, I've got a French friend who knows far too much about this sort of thing, like drugs and things." And I've learned.
Yeah.
Huey is the soft touch of the boys. He always has been. And that about him makes him special. He's almost like the heart of the group that they all, like the touchstone. Do you know what I mean? Like he grounds Butcher in a way that Butcher needs. And a few people have said that to Butcher, and it's interesting. I think even Becca said it to him, like, you need him around you. Like, like, you need him. I think he does a very similar thing for Starlight, and his absence with Starlight right now, you're starting to see her break down a little bit. I think she's
struggling bad. Yeah.
But in these last couple
moral compass of the boys. Yeah.
But in these last couple of episodes, we saw him straight up murder someone, you know, rip their throat out like with a knife, spraying himself with blood, and walk off a bit like Butcher from that, like had to be done.
Yeah.
Because he needed to get the V to his dad. He needed to save his dad. We then saw the kind of the real Huey come in where he was like, "Do you know what, actually, my dad would probably rather die than have this." And so he changed his mind, but his mum went and did it anyway. He is obviously over the moon his dad's still with us, but then starts to see what's going on. Once he sees his dad holding that heart, once he sees his dad freaking out and people are dying, did you notice Huey's whole demeanour changed to calm, methodical, I know what to do?
Yeah, it really surprised me.
And he
really surprised me how quickly he kind of went from like the way he was, and then he's like protecting his mum, and he just steps in front and just talks the dad down, and you're like,
but talks him down to kill him. Like, he has made the decision. My dad needs to die. I cannot like. And there's a story about the cat in amongst it, and how you couldn't let the cat go until, you know, exploded with shit, and it was sort of just like messed up. And Huey has changed. Like, the boys and all those people have had this thing on him, and I'd like to think he is still very much the heart, but in this episode, the cold and calmness of, I know what has to be done. And he does it. He talks his dad down, he calms him down, and then basically kills him. He does. He kills him. And he breaks, and mate, because this is Huey, to think that he has had to make that decision and then do it, it has to be him to do it. Like, I know for a fact Butcher would want to protect him from that. It's going to sound ridiculous. I almost know that if Butcher was in that room with him, Butcher would have told him to get out and he'd have done it. Like, you don't need to be the one to do it. But he did it. He killed, and he loved his dad. Like, you know, people love their parents, stuff like that, but he literally says to him, you were my hero. Like all of these superheroes, now, fuck all of them. You were my hero.
Yeah.
I was broken by this. Like, it really got to me. It was a
scene and a half, wasn't it?
Really got to me. And
I think you're right. I don't think any other character in this show could have done this scene with the same effect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But it could have been, I think the only one it could possibly have been nearly as bad is if it was MM and his daughter.
Oh, Jesus.
That's the only one. That's the only one out of all the characters in this show that would hit the same sort of way. And even then, MM has done some stuff, whereas Huey is still the compass.
Well, yeah, but then at the same time, Huey, you know, like I said last week, sliced a guy's throat open.
Yeah.
He blew up translucence, you know.
In the first season, yeah.
MM didn't
I think
do
it's
that.
Is it kind of one of those things where, because of the way Huey is, everyone's kind of got that soft spot of, it's only little Huey. Like, he's little Huey, you know?
Yeah, but I mean...
He's not got the ability of the Soups. He's not got the ruthlessness of Butcher. He's not got the background that Frenchie's got, and he's not got the pure brawn and stuff of MM. Yeah. So he's little Huey, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, so there was two aspects. The scenes and him killing it's awful, and
it's awful. Yeah,
they did it brilliantly. And I'm so pleased. Now, I want to circle back to something we discussed last week, because it is not bothering me. Like, oh, why haven't they done this? But I kind of feel like this has got. I really hope it gets addressed.
Okay.
No one's with him. Like, Huey's dad was dying, and no one was going with him to the hospital. No one was like. Has anyone heard from Huey? How's his dad doing? Like, not a reference to it.
Nothing at all.
Like,
yeah.
I get that there's a lot going on all the time, and I completely understand it, but she's supposed to love him. Like, Butcher genuinely thinks of him as his little brother at times, and like acts that way. Now, I get that Butcher's got his own shit going on right now, so we can kind of maybe, but MM... you know, no, they've all got their own stuff. I get it, but it just doesn't feel right to me. And I'd like that to be explored. I'd almost like Huey, to come back and be like, where have you been? And him be like, well, you know, my dad died. Not that.
Yeah, I had to put my dad down, and not one of you was there. Yeah,
not one of you gave a fuck. And that's an interesting thing that. And it kind of, again, like, this show holds a mirror to stuff. We all are guilty of minutiae of our days keeping us busy, and then something will happen out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, you know, someone will die, and you'll be like, oh, why didn't I see them more? Why didn't I ring them more? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? You know, people say it's like, you know, people won't spend 10 minutes picking up the phone to say hello, but travel across the country or whatever to attend your funeral. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and we're all guilty of it. Everybody is, and everyone then has the regrets. But there's just these scenes in this, like, that not one of them even called him, not one of them even wanted to be there. Like, even if they offered and he said, no, guys, you got this to deal with. You know, don't worry, I got this. None of them. And it's the Starlight one that I'm really kind of. Because there's a part where his mum says, oh, there's this engagement ring, and he's like, oh, yeah, we're not in that place. Well, clearly, no, they're not.
Whereas last season, you would have thought they were.
Yeah. So there you go. That's that. I mean, it was heartbreaking for me for so many reasons. I like Huey a lot. I think the actor's great, by the way.
Yes.
He conveys this kind of doe-eyed thing, and then his calmness in this moment. It was superb. It was so good. because you really felt that he's kind of, I'm going to say the boys training, if you know what I mean. It kind of felt like that all kicked in. Like, like, my dad died and I got to say goodbye to my dad. This is a fucking soup who's killing people. I'm just going to do the right thing. And that's...
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Is to convey that
clarity.
Yeah.
I think the moment as well that it really flicked for him is, so he first sees his dad and he's got the heart in his hand in the room. And you're like, what the fuck happened? And then you kind of get him having this breakdown of what is happening. Yeah. And then he runs through the wall and dismantles the other guy. Huey doesn't see that.
No.
Huey just sees him approached, covered in blood. Yeah. And he's very much like, I don't know what's happening. And then he kills, like he purposely kills the security guard. Yeah. And I think that's the moment that Huey goes, right, okay, I know what I've got to do now. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think up until that point, he was thinking, I just need to calm him down and then we'll be okay.
We can get him out of here and I can, that happens. And Huey's like, no, okay, right, you're one of those. Right, okay. Yeah. You're not dad anymore. I need to get you gone. Yeah.
And that was... smartly written and emotional. Like only this show, and I cannot compliment them enough that you can do that and intersperse it with other hilarity.
That's the bit for me. I think that is the best part of the writing here. Is the fact that we are watching this heartbreaking awfulness happening with Huey.
Yeah.
And at the exact same time, we are cutting back to Old MacDonald's farm.
Fun on the farm. So, let's dive into this now. So,
okay.
Butcher reveals the existence of the virus. The group know they need to get their hands on that, because it being in Newman's hands, regardless of whether Butcher'd kill every soup, it'd be better in their hands than Butcher's. sells Starlight and Kimiko on that, who are kind of like, yeah, you're right. So, they enlist a character who is an actor I absolutely love, by the way.
This guy is fantastic.
He is great. And they go and they because he's in jail. Because it's funny, I'd forgotten about that. I'd forgotten that he'd been sent down. Did you remember?
No. No, I had forgotten he was in jail.
Yeah.
I remembered he was gone, but I didn't remember kind of where.
Yeah, I'm talking about Stan Edgar. So they go and get him. He's still the same calm.
The original Mr. Calm.
Yeah, methodical. He's talking. I love it. And they offer him an immunity deal. You help us track down this virus. And he's like, why would I do that? So, because old Newman shot your granddaughter up with V. She's now a tentacle crazed killing machine. And he's like, what?
The instant change in his demeanor, instantly. He's still so calm, but now he's calm and menacing as fuck.
Yeah, I love that.
She's done what to my granddaughter?
That is so good. Now, a little bit of nerdy funness in this, right? He takes them to this farmhouse. I'm just going to talk this through and then we're going to dive into some detail. He takes them to this farmhouse, says, if she's got it stashed anywhere, it'd be here. They go looking around. All of a sudden, they realise the place looks like it's been broken into. There's blood everywhere. There's a lab down the stairs. And they go to the lab. And this is where, like, Butcher has the bunny scene we talked about. And they're looking around. It's just carnage. Like, it looks like there's been testing. Frenchie says, it looks like there were vials of the virus here, but they're all gone. And then you see Newman arrive. And Newman is blaming them. Like, what have you done with Samir? What have you done with him? And they're like, look. And he says it. He says, look, we've just arrived. So really, and again, so calm, really we have a stalemate. You kill them, they release to the world what you really are. We all need each other in this moment. You want to find Samir. We want to find the virus. They are good for that. And at the very least, they're cannon fodder. And they're like, whoa, we're stood right here. Come on. But again, it's the calmness and the delivery of him just so precise. And she's like, oh, okay, all right. So they then go off and do this. Now, Samir is an actor who me and you will know from The Mandalorian.
Yes.
And in The Mandalorian, he serves as a scientist at the behest of a guy called Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
who is played by the same actor as he plays Stan Edgar. And he says,
I'm not going to lie, I chuckled at this when I was
he was my lead scientist before he impregnated my daughter. What was it? Deflowered my 20-year-old daughter. And she was like, I was 20 and I was well deflowered. I was like, oh no, that's not what a dad wants to hear ever. No, that's bad. But yeah, so basically he was my lead scientist. I was like, oh yeah, he was on the Death Star. Yeah. So that was quite funny.
It was, that scene just had me chuckle. I was like, oh.
Yeah, but what we learn is this scientist is Victoria Newman's baby daddy. I don't think they're sort of married or in any sort of official capacity, but obviously she loves the guy to bits and they are together. So that was interesting. And Victoria Newman again being humanized, which again is really interesting. She is the head popper, but I'm never convinced she's fully evil. I don't know why. Perhaps again I'm naive, but I'm never because I'm not convinced Stan Edgar's fully evil. I'm not convinced she is fully evil, but again, perhaps I'm painfully naive there. Perhaps they're just not Homelander evil. Perhaps they're bad in their own way.
I think if that's the level of scale we've got, then my God, if you've got evil from Huey the good guy to who's still done some bad stuff, let's be honest, but Huey's the good guy and Homelander's the bad guy. Where on that scale do you fit?
Yeah, that's fair.
Damn.
Yeah. I'd like to point out that Butcher, I think, is heading right to the Homelander end, but
he's getting that way. He's definitely sliding on that way, that scale. So I hope Newman's not. I don't know. Newman's difficult because the stuff that we see her do, you're like, that's not a good guy. But I think I've definitely got a bit of a thing for her character, and I don't know if that says more about me or not.
Yeah, perhaps we shouldn't explore that any further. So in this episode, they're trying to track down what's happened, what's going on, and then we have a moment where we realise that with one of Newman's security guards has a chicken fly through it.
Through his chest. Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Chicken just appears covered in
Kentucky
blood.
Fried Carnage.
And it just walks up as they're putting bullets into these chickens. It's like,
if I think it's Frenchy, they're souped up chickens. And they're just shooting and it's doing nothing. So basically what's happened is they were doing experiments on some animals. An animal got loose, destroyed the lab, killed everyone in the lab. It was like a hamster, I think. And they said the V got into the water supply. So now all of these animals on the farm have had compound V.
Yeah, we see it's a real kind of throwaway scene, but Butcher looks at the floor and there's a grate on the floor.
Yeah, you got it.
And some vials smashed around it. Yeah. And you just think to yourself, oh my God, there's been the same, it's happened in here. It's only when they say about into the water, you're like, oh, Butcher saw that.
It's got into the groundwater, and now all of the animals on the farm are V'd up, roided up monsters.
Oh my God. And now, I'm laughing at the chickens already. The chickens are hilarious.
The chickens got me, and then the massive ball, and you're like, oh, here we go.
The big ball, I'm like, shit, what power has the ball got? It's there, it's staring at them, crowding at the ground, and you're like, what's it going to do? Is it going to start running and start having laser beams out of his eyes?
Yeah, that's what I thought we were going to have laser eyes. I thought we were going to have laser eyes out of the ball.
Splash, 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 splash. Oh my God.
However,
it goes so the other way.
The ultimate threat is proven to be flying sheep.
Yeah.
Flying, mass murdering, vicious, angry sheep.
My God, are they angry? The teeth on those sheep. My God.
Seriously, this is a Welshman's worst nightmare. They rip through everything, and whether
they just pick the ball up and off it goes, and you're like, oh.
If other animals there had V, I think the sheep have killed them. The sheep have become the dominant species in this farm.
Like, that was messed
and
up.
are now trying to kill the boys. Like, there's another female security guard gets ripped apart by a flying sheep.
Oh man, they're running towards the barn, and there's just bits of body and cow and human just flying out the ground. Oh mate, what a scene!
I had to pause this because I was crying laughing. I was gone. I was helpless. I just the dialogue of like what the fuck is going on. Frenchie trying to understand it and laying these lines in of just like it was brilliant. It was just absolutely, I was in stitches, and every time I tried to keep watching, someone else would say something and I'd have to stop again. I was just helpless. It was amazing.
It was almost like they hadn't actually told the actors what was going to happen, because their reactions were so fucking good.
It was brilliant. It was like, funny. Now we're going
to tell you what's happening on the set. We're not telling you before because we want to see you react naturally.
Now we're in this barn, and we've got a group of people, unlikely kind of, mates. Now, in amongst all the happenings and all the madness, Victoria Newman throws Butcher under the bus. Like, I'm a liar and I can't be trusted, Butcher. Well, have you told everyone about the deal we made? And Butcher's like, yeah, but I didn't do it. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I made the deal. I didn't do it. I changed my mind. Starlight's like, oh, I'm so done with you. Like, you literally let us all die. There is one vial of the virus left that Samir has kept. Yeah. And the idea is they inject it into the dead body, throw the dead body out, the sheep will munch it and eat it, and then will die from the virus. But Butcher doesn't want them to do it, because Butcher wants the virus. And they're all like going around and round on it, all having a pop at each other, but it's MM.
And the guy says as well, like, it's not strong enough to kill Homelander. And I'm like,
yeah, you're right.
So when he says that, I'm like, why is Butcher fighting for it? So if he can't kill Homelander, then surely it's useless to Butcher, because that's the only one he really wants.
I think in his mind,
but he still fights for it. Yeah,
he thinks weakening Homelander enough would allow him to kill him.
Yeah, maybe.
I think, all right, the virus might not kill him on its own, but
it makes it no longer bulletproof or something. Yeah,
it might do enough damage that I can finish it. The conversation in there, MM basically tells everyone to shut up, points out he's got hives because of how much they're stressing him out. God, that character is so OCD. I love him. You're all stressing me the fuck out. I've got hives. And he just lays it out to all of them, like, you this, like, Butcher, you're a motherfucker, but you're a motherfucker with a heart. Don't let me down. I want to get home to my daughter. And that snaps him out of it. That snaps Butcher back to, okay, all right, yeah, you're right. So they do the plan. The sheep then burst into the barn anyway, and they just stroll in, two of them, like, what's up? It's just amazing.
It was like someone opened the barn door and then these two sheep just walk in. I'm like,
oh, this is carnage.
Okay, this is. Oh no! They then open their mouths, show the teeth, and you're like, oh Jesus, run!
The sheep start dying. The virus works and works quickly, which is like an amazing demonstration for it. But it's all gone. Where's Samir? Samir's missing.
Yes.
Newman is distraught. Clearly one of the sheep's grabbed him, dragged him off. Then when all the police and everything arrive,
they find a leg.
So clearly he's been just eaten by one of the sheep. Did you have any doubts that that's what's happened at this point?
Not at that point.
I thought it was too convenient. I didn't think it was what it was, but I was just, that feels like, why didn't we see that? Like, this happened off screen. That doesn't make sense. We've seen, like, no-name security guards get ripped up. Why wouldn't we see Samir get taken? Find the leg, and I was like, okay. But then
something's not quite.
Butcher and the boys leave. They renege on their deal because they don't have the virus for Stan Edgar, so Stan Edgar's going back to jail. But the guy driving him to jail suddenly gets a nosebleed and his head explodes. and Victoria Newman opens the door to him. Now that's kind of like I betrayed you, you betrayed me, but we're now gonna reconcile.
They're basically evens now.
Those two on the same page is worrying, because his strategic thinking is next level. His kind of delivery, his calmness is impressive. The one thing that's interesting is he doesn't like Homelander. He hates him, and he does love Victoria. I genuinely believe that. I think he loves her, and so,
that and his granddaughter. Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like, they're not good, but are they worse than, you know? So that's interesting. That's
there could be a truce here. Yeah,
well, there could be a deal. Okay, we are mutual enemy. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So yeah, that's just interesting. But at the same time, they did just renege on a deal with him, so he's probably a bit pissed at them.
Yeah.
But then again, I also think he's strategically minded enough to think, yeah, I'd have done that. That's what I'd have done. So,
yeah, I mean, in fairness, the boys didn't do anything wrong to him. They made a deal. It didn't happen.
He is in jail because Victoria put him there, and he says she did what I trained her to do. She looked after herself. She betrayed me, but so that was interesting. He does have that kind of way of thinking. Butcher and his friend Kessler show up, and Butcher has got poor old scientist Samir missing a big part of his leg.
I mean, you say poor old Samir. He did try an experiment on poor Grogu. So,
different show to reference.
Oh, wrong one. Yeah.
So, I just, in this, I'm kind of like, there's this moment where Butcher's saying we, and he looks over his shoulder at Kessler, and I think Samir looks panicked. Like, who are you talking to? Like, there's no one else there. I could be misreading it, because it could just be I've got this idea in my head. But
see, that was the scene. That was the scene for me that made me go 99 to 100%.
Yeah.
I'm like, he said we're going to do some work, and he looks over his shoulder like, who are you looking at? Like, who's we? Like, he looks panicked, like, shit, who else is there? Not a, who the fuck are you? It was more of a, who the hell is he talking to? Like, oh my God, who's the we?
I'm starting to think that if Kessler is in his head, we've got a little bit of the kind of the angel and the devil on his shoulders. So Becca's the voice of, you need to save Ryan, you need to do this, but isn't telling him to do messed up shit. Whereas Kessler's like, when did you become a pussy? Why is it now you're near death and you're suddenly like all soft and being nice to people? Like, you fuck all of them. You need to kill people. You need to do this. End soups. That's our goal.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to find out. I think Kessler's obviously a real person, and I think Kessler's dead. I think Kessler
Is it died, someone else from his past, like Becca?
I think Kessler's died on a mission or something, and that's going to get revealed. Like, he's going to reference, like, oh, Kessler wants me to do it. And someone's going to be like, Kessler died like 10 years ago on a mission, Butcher, you know that. Or something, and that's going to be the, oh, shit. So, yeah, you're 100%. I'm 99.99 simply because I had the theory that Huey was seeing his mum, and it appears that she is really there. So yeah, that's kind of I'm now doubting myself on this because I had that theory and I was wrong. So 99.99999999.
For me, it's just the fact that he always turns up when there's no one else around.
Yeah, but again, that could just be leading us down the garden path because he's a spy. He was technically in the CIA building when Butcher went and sat with him, but Butcher handed him a coffee and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we don't know because, of course, like I said about Huey thing, when Huey was walking in, and he could just be walking around with 2 cups, putting one down on the side. Butcher could have been pouring 2 things. Like, they might have security footage of Butcher talking to himself in that room. And then we'd all go, oh, wow, okay. So there's so much happening.
The scene with him and Becca helps him up off the ground.
Yeah.
Like, he grabs Becca's hand and pulls himself up, and then we realise actually he'd grabbed the side of the bar.
Yeah.
And pulled himself up instead. So there's all that chances there that he's,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I think the show's excellent. I always have, and I think this episode hit just another incredible mark. I hope that they get awards and stuff for this, and the only reason why they won't is because of the genre and because of the blood, the core, the language.
The language alone.
It deserves recognition, though, because the acting performances and the writing is on another level. The show, for me, has just, in this episode, I've been loving everything. 3 seasons and 4 episodes in, I've enjoyed it all. And in this episode, I can sit back and say, that's up there with some of the best television I've ever seen.
It was just, like, this episode was phenomenal. Like, to have everything that it had in it, like I said at the very beginning, to have laugh out loud, cry with laughter, to, oh my God, like, that's heartbreaking. Yeah. And to have them happening at the same time, jumping between the two of them.
Yeah.
That, for me, that was fantastic.
And so much story moving forward as well. That is all my notes, and pretty much all we got time for. Is there anything I've missed that you want to circle or point out?
I don't think so.
Oof, and there was a lot, by the way. So if we have missed something, I apologise. Yeah. There was a lot to cover. We will be back, of course, next week talking more of The Boys. We are currently doing 3 shows a week. House of the Dragon, the HBO spin-off for Game of Thrones, the Acolyte, the Star Wars series, Disney Plus exclusive, and, of course, The Boys, the Amazon Prime series, which you're listening to right now. We will be back next week to discuss more of The Boys. 3 episodes a week. We always encourage people to get in touch with us. You can email Sam at stuffandthangspodcast.com with any thoughts you want to send it in privately. You can message via any of the podcast apps. I know a lot of people like to do that via Pandora, and you're welcome to continue. Also, you can get in touch via any of the social medias we have. We have a TikTok. We do have an Instagram, but Stefan, I think, lost the password, so no idea if that's even a thing right now.
I gave them to Kaylee. I blame Kaylee, and she's not here to defend herself, so I blame Kaylee.
Smart. I like it. The Facebook page is very active again, which is great. So by all means, jump on that. Get involved. We also have... Go on, I'm going to line you up with this.
We have the Discord. My baby, the Discord. It was my baby, and now it's kind of like a stroppy teenager because it doesn't talk to me very much. Or anyone. We have the Discord channel. There is a few of us on there. We have a channel available for pretty much every show we talk about, as well as just a general kind of hangout room as well, so you can talk about anything you are watching, anything you want to talk about. It's, a safe space for everyone. If you do want to get involved, you get to talk to all 3 of us presenters, as well as fellow-minded fans as well. So, jump on the Discord and say hi.
That was good. That was very professional and very proud of you.
I try.
We will be back next week. Until then, everybody, you all take care.
Until next time, take care.
Well, you could have warned us your pal Samir was Ving up a Kentucky Fried fucking massacre, couldn't you?
I didn't know, okay? Something obviously went wrong.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.